Hi, so welcome to my New Moon Insights. I am collaborating with Lane Jaffe today, and this is my sixth, I believe, in the series. I took December off, so I'm always super excited to be here at the new moon because it's a very intriguing time to me. It's a very good time to start new things and set new intentions. I always do like to say in the beginning that I am not an astrologer. It's just a time of the month that I use that I think is really special. And so I love to bring in new faces and interesting people that have helped me on my evolution. And let me just start by saying that I met Lane probably 6 or so years ago at a small studio where he was teaching yoga, and then followed him over to the Yoga Loft. And up until the pandemic was pretty consistent. And let me just say that there are very few people in my life, and I know a lot of people that I feel very in touch with and in flow with. And I can honestly say that sometimes I would be in Lane's yoga class and feel almost like I knew what he was going to call out before he called it out. And I just love the synchronicity that I have felt with him. And I love the space that he holds for people. And I love the teacher that he is. And now he is transitioning and doing more breath work, which he started before the pandemic, but I experienced a class a couple weeks ago and had a completely beautifully, unbelievably profound experience, while subtle, very, very profound. So I want to introduce you to Lane. And Lane, if you can start just by telling us like who you are, what you're up to these days, all the magnificent things that you do, and in particular, this breath work, like how it came about for you and what you're doing with it now. Like who started it? How'd you find it? What you're doing with it now?
Yeah, well, first of all, Jen, thanks for having me on here. The feelings are mutual, and it's nice when you have synchronicity. And it always amazes me how I have synchronicity with most people, but then when I don't, I'm like, what's going on with me? Not what's going on with them. Like, how are we not all just in flow together? Because if we just come back to kindness and love, it's pretty simple. But we get distracted because there's so many things happening that we have to deal with that takes our mind away from being connected. And once we become disconnected is when we, fracture and lose the point of this journey. So thank you for having me. I guess, it started, we'll just start with the yoga. I won't go that far back. I'll just go 20 years ago. I found yoga, and that, I guess that's far back, but 20 years ago, yoga, and that put me on my path of searching. I got a master's in psychology. I was always into how people think, why people think differently, why we aren't happy, what we are searching for, what we call healing. And the yoga took me to different countries, looking at plant medicine, looking at different healers. I was always infatuated with like, oh, what's a guru? What's a medicine man? What are these shamans? Who are these people? And are they different than us? And what I got was that, they're not. There are people that do the work. They do the work consistently. They believe in the work and are able to share the work that they have gone through that has helped them. Yeah.
Beautiful. So then you got to breath work, and how did you find that and get started with it?
So I was doing a lot of plant medicine, ayahuasca and San Pedro and psilocybin, and anything that I was putting into my system, let's say sitting in settings, sitting in ceremonies. And I had some profound experiences where I'm like, wow, that's super helpful. I came back and I went to this breathwork class and knew nothing about breathwork, and, did it. And I was like, holy cow, that's as close as you can get to plant medicine insofar as being able to get outside of your ego and have an experience of what's going on underneath. We'll say your true self. We get lost in words often, trying to put words on things, but so the breath work is so powerful. And then it goes back to like breath work has been around for years, right? Pranayama has been around for hundreds of years. So we just get lost in it. And now we all go back to what was working then, oh, wow, our breath has been with us. Like, let's explore it. And it's kind of like the buzz right now.
It is a buzz, but in particular, you, I mean, as a yoga teacher, obviously, you teach all different kinds of breathing techniques.
Right.
But this technique in particular, what sticks for you? You know, who was the, founder of it, and why is this the jam for you? Why is this what you're so excited about and that you grabbed onto and you said, this is what I want to teach, this is what I want to share with people?
This had the deepest effect of getting out of your mind, your thinking mind, and into your feelings. You can get into altered states of consciousness. And it's something like if somebody asks you, like, what's it like to trip on acid, or what's it like to trip, like just lose your mind in a way where you're going to come back, but lose your mind purposefully. It's really hard to articulate it in words. It's something you have to experience. But once you experience it, you can never really go back to unexperiencing it.
Right.
So I was just blown away that you can actually experience it by changing up your breath pattern. Yeah, and the founder, I mean, it's, again, pranayama has been around for years, but this type of work is closest to holotropic breath work.
Okay.
By a guy named Stan Grof, who was a psychologist working with LSD and breathing. LSD became illegal. And he said, well, how do we get us into altered states of consciousness without LSD? We're looking to heal. To get in an altered state of consciousness, what we're trying to do is your body is a cellular library. So every experience you have stays with you in some form. And it gets stuck, energy gets stuck, trauma gets stuck. So what you're experiencing is the past. You're not experiencing the moment, you're experiencing the past. So how do we get beyond that? And this guy, Stan Grof, through this type of breath work, holotropic breathing, found a way to get out of our mind, into our body, move some stuck energy, access points that it's really hard to access in consciousness, in ego. Yeah, so he's basically the forefather of it that I know. There's a lot of, not charlatans, but there's a lot of different people with different ways and different certifications, which is great, but Stan Grof would be the guy to look up if you're interested in this path.
Right. And so what do you feel like for you personally?
Right.
Like, what has been the biggest shift for you that you can say, wow, this really changed my life? And this is why I'm teaching it. What's been the biggest thing for you, would you say, if you had one?
Probably the accepting and no longer using the word. I still use it because other people articulate with it. So you're trying to communicate with other people. The word healing, like we're always healing. We're never going to be done healing. This journey of healing doesn't end. So if I look at it like I'm not healing because there's nothing wrong, I'm just integrating, like the dark side of the moon, there's a light side of the moon, there's black, there's white, there's always going to be work to be done. And the work is the practice. So the profound effect of just laying there for 45 minutes and getting out of my own way and like dreaming while being awake was a pretty strong emotion that I had. And then teaching it or guiding it, just when people come up to me afterwards and they're like, I feel like I was reborn, or that felt like 20 years of therapy, or I did it in a prison, in a maximum security prison, and a guy raised his hand. He's like, this is the first time in 14 years that I've ever felt free.
Wow.
So that was, super impactful. Yeah.
Well, that right there is such a huge testimony. And that was kind of leading into my next question. Like, I know that, there's no cookie cutter approach when it comes to healing, right? Some things work better for some people and other things work great for other people. If you could kind of generalize, like, what do you see your clients that come to your classes, what do they say most to you? What do you, the feedback that you get most about how it has altered their life, their daily life? What would you say?
The biggest thing is thank you. And I know that seems so simple, but it's so profound when someone comes up and just says thank you, and they're often crying. It's a reshaping of the way we view our problems. And we're all, again, problems, we get stuck in lingo. Problems are obstacles. Problems are things we have to work with to grow. So it gives you the ability to look at your obstacle from a different lens, because we always have one lens, which is your ego, which is your consciousness. So to be able to get outside of that lens, people are so thankful. Like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And I want to be clear that it's not me that's doing it. I'm holding the space. Anybody can do breath work. It is the practice. I'm a space holder of the practice. I'm not a guru. I'm sure I'm a teacher because I'm teaching a pattern, but you know, it is very self-empowering that you can do it on your own, in your room, by yourself. And it is a really deep form of meditation.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, well, because I know for myself, I just kind of checked out and went somewhere else. Like I could hear your voice, I could
Right.
hear the music. I knew that there was a room full of people, packed full of people. And yet at the same time, it was like the experience was, I'm just, like you said, I'm getting out of my own way. I'm completely like with everything else, you know? But so just like this one other facet. So you were kind of paralleling it with like different medicinals, different hallucinogenics. If somebody out there were living in a little bit of fear,
Yeah, of
um,
course.
right? And they're like, well, that sounds really cool, but I've never done a hallucinogen before and I'm
Right.
not really interested. Like, what can you say to put their mind at ease to be like, it's a safe space for them?
Well, if you walk into a gym and you lift a 1,000-pound barbell over your head, you may drop it on your foot and break your toe. Or you drop it on your head, you may get injured, you know. But if you go to a practitioner who you trust, or that, you know, you've done your research or whatever it may be, I guess anything comes with fear, or I'm not articulating it very well, but there's not inherent danger, but there's fear. You go in the swim in the ocean. Well, I'm scared of the ocean. Okay, well, let's go in the pool. Maybe you just, you know, stick your foot in the pool. In order to overcome any type of fear, you tread lightly, you go in and you trust your intuition, knowing like you're only going to go as far as you want to go. So the first step is like, if you have fear, that's great. Fear should, anything you do for the first time, you probably have fear. That's being human. So just showing up and going at your own pace, and realizing your breath has been with you from the birth until, you know, transcendence. You're not doing anything too crazy. You're laying on the floor breathing. You're surrounded by 20 other people who are there if you can help. Again, I think the most confronting thing, people get anxious for the first 5 minutes or so, because it's new, and anytime you feel anything new, new sensation, people get a little bit with unease, not dis-ease, but they just feel a little bit uncomfortable. But what's the alternative? Living with this discomfort all the way through, or living with this fear all the way through? So you have to just make the decision that like, I want and I'm willing and I'm open to move forward. In order to do that, I have to do something a little bit different. And this is a modality that's a little bit different. It's, you know, it's breathing. It's not that different, but it's different than what we do normally or every day.
Well, it's a pattern and you have to stay with it.
Yes.
So, you know, even if you fall asleep the first time or you knock out for a little bit the first time, it's once you do it a few times and you show up for yourself, there's a pattern that goes with it so that you can run the energy.
Right.
Right.
And that's the big thing, running the energy. And I don't want to get woo-woo with chakras or anything, but it's like wheels of energy that are in our body. And those wheels either get stuck or stagnate or slow down based on what we're experiencing, stress. And so this breath is like just a big old wind into your system, into your energy centers.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, chakras are no longer woo-woo. People know that we've got, people know what they are, right? Like, and by
Yes.
the way, hopefully most of the people that are listening to this have a little woo-woo in them, right? Because that's just the direction we're going. In my mind, it's like you said, the breath work, pranayama has been going on for so long, and we're just going back to natural healing modalities and being aware of the energy that runs through us. So bring on the woo woo for me. So.
Yeah, I'm all woo woo. You know, it's my life in the woo woo, but it's just
I know.
natural. It's like, this is the way it is. Like, you can put the words on it. 80% of our stuff we consume is from the media. 75% of commercials are from pharmaceutical companies. We have a sick society that is looking for other things. And because the FDA or some government says this will help you, and we say, okay, we trust. I'm all for trusting things and people, but the breath is the most natural way to trust yourself with what you have to work with, what is going on inside of you. So, you know, it will be FDA approved, and maybe that'll make people feel better about it or whatever it may be. But it is the most natural way to, you know, feel ourselves, feel our emotions.
Yeah.
How was your experience? You got to experience, well, turn the tides a little bit. you got to come to one of the sessions. You were in the workshop. It was a new breathing pattern for you, I think. What were your thoughts going in and coming out, or going in? What were your thoughts going into it? What were your thoughts in it, if you had them? And then what were your thoughts after it?
So I've done some breath work before in similar situations, and the pattern was very, very similar. So I'd been there before, and I am really in a place right now where I'm trusting that whatever I say yes to, I'm there for a reason, and I'm going to get out of it what I need to get out of it. I love showing up with groups of people, because I know the healing is so much more powerful in a group like that. And I would say, like I said, my experience was I really wanted to stay with the breath.
Yeah.
And I think there was a time when you said, you know, if you want to step out of it, go into your head. And there were times when, you know, as a human, you just want to go into your head. And my intention was to just stay with the breath. So that alone can be a huge practice, because even though we as a group would take a break, you know, a little bit in, and we would take a big breath together, staying is challenging. But that was my intention, and I was reaping the benefits. Like I said, at the end, when we were just kind of laying there in Shavasana, I knew that a shift had happened. But as I sent you that note later, I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew that, like, right after I talked to you, I couldn't speak, right? You were like, so tell me, what's going on? I was like, I got nothing to say right now, because I wanted it to land and integrate and have its way with me. And I intentionally went there on a Saturday night at, I don't know what time it was, 7 or something. Not normally what I do on a Saturday night. So I already was setting the intention to have a different experience in my life in general, to make something change, right? I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that was going to benefit me. And then I would say for probably 2 or 3 days, I was feeling the integrative effects of being at peace, feeling more clear. And like I said before our call, I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions. I'm going in some transitional states. They're all good, all fantastic. But to be able to stay and to be clear and to feel good about the choices that I'm making, I believe is a direct result of doing that breath work with you.
Right.
And so that leads me to, because I know we should probably wrap up. I know that you're kind of all over the greater Los Angeles area right now. You're Hollywood, Malibu, Manhattan Beach. If somebody wants to find you,
Yes,
what's the best way? I mean, I'm happy to share things when I can, and I do, you know, when I come across people, but how can they find you?
Yeah, not much of the businessman. So, you know, I'm the show up and the practitioner. Easiest, simplest is Lane Jaffe Yoga. That's just an Instagram, and I post when I show up places, kind of like the reluctant healer, where, you know, I come where it's called and show up. I just one thing you said, though, the trusting yourself, knowing that you were supposed to be there or whatever. That's the biggest thing. So it's like you hear about this breath work, or you hear about certain modalities, and then you'll start to hear about them more. Trusting yourself is what we're getting back to. And that's what this breath work allows you to do, is like, we got to start trusting ourselves that we're okay, and that we're doing the right things, and that we're on track for whatever it is our journey should be taking us.
Yeah, 100%. I feel the same way. And as you know, I work with energy, and I do a modality called BEST. And I mean, ultimately, people come in to be rebooted, if you will. But if they don't go out and trust the decisions that they're making and the choices that they're making and discerning, then what are we doing here? It's like you said, it's not about the guru.
Nope.
It's about trusting the self.
Practice and trust in the practice, and that's it. And practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay, so Lane Jaffe Yoga is where they can find you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Lane, thank you so much for being
Yes.
on with me. I love you dearly.
I love you too.
Do you have anything immediately set up?
Saturday sold out workshop at Remedy Place. Saturday sold out at Heimat in LA. Sunday sold out at Remedy Place. Next weekend I may be at Sauk Creek Wellness in Malibu. So just you can check your Instagram. Might be invite only, but we'll see.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jen.
Much love.
Appreciate you. Much love. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.